Let's welcome Vanessa.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you. Thank you. I obviously wasn't even paying attention to my own intro here, and I was struggling with technology, which is pretty on point for me. Did you guys see the slideshow that's not playing now? Or was it never playing, actually?
It popped up for like 3 things and then
Well, it's totally part of my intro, so brilliant.
maybe it's only like 1 second. There we go. Or
In theory. Okay, maybe you'll get more than one image, maybe you won't. So I started this presentation with this idea of talking why there's only 3. I don't know why I did that. With talking about being a curator, head curator of On God Arts Hotel, which is part of my big bio thing. And I thought, I'm just going to talk about being a curator. And honestly, if you do a tour at On God Arts Hotel, you get a whole hour of that subject alone, of the art and the exhibitions and the history and how I came to be there. And I feel like most people think that is me. That's my identity of St. Louis, right? So I decided to do this talk based on things you probably don't know, like nude modeling. Thank you, Mike Spakowski. So that was the one. That's okay. We're going to start with struggle bus situation over here. Okay, technology, not great. I am an artist, so I'm allowed to do things with paper and crayons most of the time. Okay, let's see if we can do this. Okay, it's not supposed to play. Okay, can you guys all see that? Am I in the way?
well,
All right.
Your head was covering your head and it was
My head is just perfect, about this big. Okay, also I didn't even think about, you guys can't see also because I'm just gonna stand right in the way. Okay, so first I'm gonna start with, in a past life, I have magical skills at being a photographer. And the first thing you notice is that my headshot was awesome, thank you very much, on my flyer. But it didn't start awesome, so this is a side-by-side. I wanna show you about my magic trick skills. That's on the left, the one you got. The one on the right is the one that I actually took. So here you have what you saw. This was the original. Can you guys watch the magic trick? Ooh, oh, wow, ooh. We're not gonna leave it on that one, we'll leave it on that one. Okay, this actually is an incredible segue into my life as a live-in caregiver. Obviously, that's what this looks like, obviously. I have had 27 different addresses. I have lived many a place. I've had so many jobs that I don't want to list them out for you because it sounds kind of bonkers. But I was wow, that's actually on this TV a terrible pixelated image. I'm so sorry. It looks okay, that's good. Sorry about you guys in the front. Way better on my laptop. Okay, so could you guys even see the back and forth? Okay, thank you. The thing about all the different lives I've had is what these little nuggets were that I took as I was, bopping through. But also, it's really hard to keep track of your lifeline, like your timeline, the thread through everything that you did. I pull out caregiving for this image because I was a live-in caregiver. I lived in a home for 4 days a week, off for 3 days a week. So I'd take my dogs, and I'd live in, take care of this gentleman who had diabetes and could be left alone. And I saw the posting for On God Arts Hotel opening as a hotel, not as a curator, but just like as a hotel. And I was like, I need to apply now. I was on day 1 of my 4-day stint, so I didn't want to wait. But I did have my camera because I take pretty pictures of flowers and stuff on the side. So I took this photo of myself. I set it up in the edge of a little corner of the room. And that's why there's no makeup going on over here. Because why would I take makeup to go be a caregiver in a house? I'm practically wearing pajamas all day, right? So I had to make makeup happen, right? I had to make my headshot happen so I could send it off. And then I got my cool job with On God, and I immediately dyed my hair blonde and looked completely different than the way anybody else had ever seen me. So I started my whole time at On God blonde. People would be like, yeah, well, I have been to On God, but I met that blonde woman. I'm like, Yeah, that's me. That was me, okay? So the funny thing about that is that this on God personality, it's the big one, right? It's the one that everybody probably, raise your hand if you know me only as on God curator. Oh, there's a lot less hands there than I thought. Ooh, I love this. Well, that actually doesn't play into my story very well. I needed everyone to raise their hands, so I'd be like, well, I've done these other things. So there's a little flabbergasted. The interesting thing about the on God is I think that's the big one. That's a very show pony kind of job. And I have since really leveraged off of that and taken that passion project of a job and moved into what I truly believe is what I should be doing. But all these other things that happen behind. This was actually supposed to be also for like a lot of students, which I don't know if I have a lot of young students in this room, but this is the experience of Googling yourself. Have you guys ever Googled yourself?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's very scary. You'll have like an existential crisis if you do that. My first, like top of the thing is like all this stuff you get. The On God, the STL.org. I did a little thing with Grand Center. We've got a cool podcast with comedian Molly Ambergy, really cool, Casually Molly, if you ever listen to it. You got a little Arlene's in here. Arlene, I see you right here. And also then a couple little photography things start to pop in. So interesting enough, I was actually a commercial photographer for over 10 years. That was the banner before On God Curator. This is not my logo at that time, but I do really like this logo, and it came up on the first page of my thing, and I really was like, ah. When I was in college, my roommate was a graphic designer, and she knew I loved Art Nouveau. I love things like really sway, blue, blah. Those were words, but like just Alphonse Mucha, Gustav Klimt, like the long flowy hair, the whole thing. So she made me this logo so that I could put it into my portfolio, and I did. When I graduated college, my portfolio was all like really high fashion and this fancy little logo here. But I love that it's like right in the middle of the Google thing. I love also that I'm spending so much more time on this Google thing than I thought I was going to. I've got Neustadt Laureate. I used to photograph the Neustadt Laureates when they came to get their awards. So we got Mia Couto right here. But interesting enough, I don't have a lot of things in here. I do have my book, of which some of you guys got a preview, because when you get somewhere early for one of my events, you get special rewards. I like to reward early behavior. And I'm going to tell you all about this book here in a second. But also this is my grandma. Hi, Grandma. She also didn't have real red hair. This is not real. That's not real. Okay. Anyway, last thing on my page was my tombstone, which was also interesting. So here I am, passed away in 2001. That's not actually me, but this is what happens when you Google yourself and you start seeing all kinds of things that my middle name is Anne. That's my middle initial, guys. So, okay, we're moving on. Okay, beauty of the books. We'll leave it on here for a hot second. So, for those of you that were here early, where's my best friend? Okay. You have to bring an assistant if you want to do a cool thing. She just put food in her mouth, so that's real good. So, first of all, gorgeous box, right? I had a really talented boyfriend at one time that saw this book for the first time. I had already had it for, 5-6 years, and I was still carrying it around in a cardboard box. I was just like unwrapping the cardboard box, then I'd show you this really cool book, and then I'd wrap it back up in a cardboard box, and he was like, hell no, this is crazy. Also, I meant to do a viewer beware. There's going to be a lot of nudity in this. Yeah, sorry. I meant to be like, FYI, if you're uncomfortable, it's cool. You just like take a call outside for like the next hour. Okay. So this book was created in 2009. I was, 24 years old? Yeah. And at the time, it was like, I'm going to make all kinds of these. I'm gonna be a fashion photographer, I'm gonna shoot for W Magazine, I'm gonna be Paolo Roversi, he's my idol, I'm going off to do amazing things. So when I got this project, it was the craziest, like, I'll tell you the whole story, but this is actually very heavy, so I'm not gonna be able to hold it very long. I'm just gonna piece through really fast, hold on. We hold that. Oh, now Greta. Oh, Lauren's on duty. Okay. I'm only going to show you a couple pages, not the whole thing. But what I wanted you to see is that these are individual photos, unbound, so that you can frame them and put them up. And then the entire book is letterpressed poetry with Rex Wilder. So I'm going to have the book in the back. We're going to go through it. I just was like paranoid about coffee, right? So there's this, very pretty. This is Japanese red silk, golden boss, blah, blah, blah. So fancy. Okay. That was just a niblet so that I could tell you how fancy this project was. Okay, here I am, 24 years old. I'm at school at the Art Institute of Seattle. It's not the most glorious school in the whole world, but First Ave has this most amazing bookstore. It has a spiral staircase that goes up in the middle. And I was like, I want to shoot a girl on that staircase with the dress going all the way down the thing, like Tim Walker. I don't know how many photographers are in this room, but I'm going to name drop a bunch of people. You have absolutely no idea who those people are. So it's going to be great. Anyway, so I asked the book store owner if I can do a shoot in there. And he says, yeah, you can. This is where my tech skills are like terrible. I have like no really good slides to pop over. So I'm going to like talk a whole lot. And then I'm going to end up showing you slides somewhere in the middle that support certain points. It's really great. I wanted to be a fashion photographer, but like the photo editorial spread versions that's like 8 pages long, the ones at the back of the magazine that's like a whole story and you got all the different outfits and it's quite beautiful and it's like fashion for fashion's sake, right? So I was doing all kinds of different stuff to get my portfolio together. Back to the bookstore. I walk in, he's like, yeah, you can do a shoot. I'm like, cool. I go home, I get a phone call from him and he's like, what kind of shoot are we doing? And I'm like, fashion shoot, some clothes from a fashion designer at my school, just, nothing. He goes, so they're gonna have clothes on, right? And I'm like, yeah, they are. And he's like, oh, because I thought you were definitely doing nudes because I just Googled you and you shot the Seattle Erotics Art Festival and your name was in the newspaper. And I was like, do I need to shut the store down? And I'm like, no, we're good. However, then we started talking about it. Well, would you shut the store down? Like, what if I did do a shoot in there that was like nudes and stuff? Very technical term. I did the fashion shoot because there was a student that had this amazing line of clothes that she wanted to shoot. But then we planned the nude shoot. I had 6 different models over 14 hours, guys. It was insane. It was so stupid, but like I had like so many different assistants. I had all this stuff, and I had the shop for the day. So I'm thinking, okay, we shut the shop down. We're doing a shoot. For 14 hours, I did row your boat, and I just shot a whole bunch of work for a whole bunch of different people in a whole bunch of different places with all this cool stuff. Yes, you only get to see these 2 images, and that's it. That's all the images you get to see. But these were 2 of my favorites that actually ended up in the show. This one right here is in the book. This one was actually only ever seen in the show, framed, printed. There's no other version of it anywhere. It's not in the book. It was the marketing image for the show, but the one in the book is the one I just showed you where her arm is out. Turns out, sometimes when you do creative projects, you don't get the one that you want. Everybody else loved this image, and I did not love it, but I was like, okay, everybody loves it. And the one with the arm out became like the show pony of the whole show, and it was like not my favorite. So another creative thing that happens sometimes, Okay, let's see what we got going on. Oh, this happened. Okay. Oh, the nude modeling thing, I was like, well, there's by no means I'm going to show you guys any nude photos of me. Thank you very much. But most of what the nude modeling was painting. So I would do classes for an hour, 4 different poses, and hold it and do like this whole painting session. But this goes back to, this is me, art school. Okay, this is where my story starts to veer away. Let's go back to Google. When we Google ourselves. Google is not being, really kind and showing you a bunch of cool stuff that you've done. So I was photographed by some cool people in Seattle when I lived there. Also, I've done some really cool stuff over here for On God Arts Hotels. It's me and Tim Azell. It's on the Business Journal. We have had 40 exhibits at the hotel. I've been, in the news a couple times. I didn't want to do all that too. But it's funny because Google doesn't really do that. Google also didn't show you anything from when I was a photographer and I had a website. This just happened to be a screenshot of when Notre Dame caught on fire. I was devastated because I had spent hours and hours and days sitting outside Notre Dame. So in my little lily pad, and I knew this talk would be like this. I'm like, I'm over here, and I'm over here, and I'm over here. Hey. I lived in Paris for 4 months, but it was a huge culmination part of my timeline. And also, it doesn't exist anywhere. I don't have a website. I don't have photos up anywhere. I actually was like going through, okay, this is so embarrassing. When you were a photographer, you would burn your stuff to a CD, and that's how you would hold it. You have like a hard drive and a holder, whatever. My hard drive is like a monster, like a pillar. It takes like 9 hours to turn on. So obviously it's not archival at all. And then when you're going through and you're trying to load raw files through the thing, I was like, fuck it, I'm not gonna, you guys don't get any pictures of Paris. You're just gonna have to pretend I was there. This is the only actual evidence that I was there. This was on my website, and I screenshot it from when Notre Dame caught on fire. But this photo is so beautiful. So eventually I'll find it, and I'll just throw it up someday, and you guys will get to see it. But it was so sweet. Google's about as good at it as I am. It also didn't tell you anything about when I was working under other people as a photographer. So I was in Oklahoma a lot, so I shot a lot of Bob Stoops. I shot him on the field, I shot him off the field, I shot him with his family. We did the basketball team, did the football team, but also I was constantly photographing some lawyers, some doctors, and some architecture firms. This is my little Vanity Fair moment. How does this look on the screen? Okay, cool. That looks way better than the photo I had up there. If you guys are familiar with Vanity Fair, it does these spreads like this where everybody's layered in. And they were like, yeah, we love that. Can you do that with our 25-person firm for a 1-page ad in this magazine? And I'm like, what the? You guys are gonna be sitting on each other's laps. And literally I made this lady sit on that guy's lap. They're married, but it was kind of cute, I'm like, that's what you're gonna do. Also photographed food and beverage for On God for the last 5-6 years with the little stint after I started here. So things like this will pop up, and it's like, yeah, I did that. Google doesn't tell you. It doesn't have any life anywhere, right? But I do have to say, next to photographing, beautiful women in dresses and in these sexy film noir poses, sometimes avocado toast. She's pretty, right? She's pretty sexy. This is the original photo, and I just love all this dark fall off with this beautiful light. But I wanted to get in there really close so you could see the toast. I mean, yum, so good. It also didn't tell you about this. So where are we on time? Because I don't want to be I did this, and then I did this.
40 more minutes.
Brilliant. You guys are trapped here for just long enough. Okay, the other thing that I did a lot when I was bouncing around is that, wait a second, did we get to Beauty and the Books? Oh, here's my little Alphonse Mucha Klimt. I wanted to make a visual reference to how, and also there's nudity here, so watch out. I wanted to make a visual reference to all these idols I had when I was younger. All the artwork I was attracted to was always some like lovely, waify, long-haired. I wanted to look like this woman that I saw everywhere. Alphonse Mucha, Klimt, Julia Margaret Cameron, Richard Avedon, everywhere. I ended up in photography really because I wasn't her, but I wanted to find her constantly. And you're gonna notice that every photo I show you, except for avocado toast, looks like the same girl over and over and over again, which I think is actually fascinating. It's kind of like it's probably a little Freudian in there, but I also noticed that Paolo Roversi, I'm gonna show you some of his pieces. He's this photographer from Ravenna, lived in Paris most of his life, big fashion photographer. Most people also don't know who he is. If you Googled it, like most people will be like, oh, if you Google him, he's up there with the greats of fashion photography between 90s, 2000s, whatnot. Anyway, he only also photographs like wafy, whimsical girls sitting like this and looking at this thing. And then as 40-year-old Vanessa, I'm like, whoa, that's weird. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I was digging it. I was absolutely digging it. It was like I could look at the same exact photo over and over, different girl, different environment, all about it. Went off to make my own. So made my own. Here they are. Alphonse, Klimt. Oh, here we go. Here's Paolo. Same girl, They're not all the same girl, but they all feel like the same girl, don't they? Yeah? We're feeling my vibe here. This is when I actually spent some real time on your slides, guys. Look at this graphic design I did over here. It's the only one. It's the only one that got it. Raise your hand if you have actually seen this image. It's on the right. Okay. I think it's probably the most famous one he's ever had. And 3 people just raised their hands. So I'm like, whew, he was my whole life. Okay, Paolo Roversi. He said, an artist simply feeds himself with what he sees around. The more his nourishment is unconscious, the deeper it gets. In the early part of putting this whole thing together, I was struggling with what do I talk about? I can talk forever. I can talk for hours. You guys could still be here at 5 p.m. I could tell you all kinds of things. But I wanted to make sure the presentation kind of sounded like it was going together, and it wasn't just like I did this, and I did this, and then I did this, and I was born here, and then I died in 2001. You saw my tombstone, right? Yoro didn't, because she just got here. Calling you out. Anyway, I feel like that this quote kind of represents what it's like to be a vagabond and go about and do all these different things. In this day and age, if you go into an interview, your interviewer is like, ooh, you've lived in 27 places and had 700,000 jobs. You're a bartender and a caregiver, and you sell some stuff on the side, and I was a manager of a construction and demolition plant. I used to wear steel-toe boots and the masks before COVID and Carhartt all day, and I'd have to switch out my shirts like every other week because they would get ripped by like shards of metal and stuff going by and whatever, and I was completely dusty and gross, and people are like, what? I'm like, yeah, but imagine the life experiences I've had if I go from that to that. Now, if you try and get a job, they're like, no, thank you. We're moving on from that. So most of my jobs come from meeting a person, and then they have a vision, and I am good at talking through a vision. That's why I work with artists. Artists are like, I got thoughts. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about them. Let's talk about those thoughts. This is where my slides are also really weird. This was Seattle. I was throwing girls into boats with disco balls out in the middle of Puyallup. I don't know where that is, actually. Oh, this too. Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure this face is AI. I was like, hey, give me a really sexy bearded man with snow on his beard. And this came up. I didn't do it in AI. I did it on Google search, because Google search is the theme of this whole timeline thing. Google search. This slide is relevant because fast forward through the Seattle experience. Seattle is where I made this incredible book. Oh, I forgot. I just left the book story complete. I keep looking at my friend. I'm like, where am I, friend? Where am I, friend? Okay, we'll come back to the book. When I graduated in Seattle, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go because I could go anywhere. And that happens a lot when like the sky's the limit. You're like, oh my God, I can do so many different things. I wasn't very home-based, not real close ties with my family. And my sister is a single mom in the military bouncing around, and she's my closest family member. So the two of us are just like seeds in the wind. Sometimes we're on the same tree, sometimes we're riding a dog around Oklahoma. I don't know. So here I am in Seattle looking up jobs, and Craigslist, if you remember that, RIP, Craigslist had a job for...
She's doing fine.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Craigslist.
Thanks, friend. Craigslist. He's my cheerleaders over there. The thing about Craigslist is that there's a lot of weird stuff on there. It's almost as good as a Google search, almost. Google searches are weird. Anyway, Craigslist. Sitting in a coffee shop in Seattle, a job pops up. Live-in hospitality, because I love a live-in experience. Hospitality on the McMurdo station in Antarctica. If you are aware with the stations of Antarctica, there's only two. There's one, McMurdo, where most people can go to just do a job. Do trash, do hospitality, you can, be a banquet manager, whatever. Then the other one is deep, deep Antarctica, and you have to actually work at McMurdo for 5 years to be able to even go to the other one because it's so psychologically crazy. And I'm a photographer, and I'm thinking, yeah, I want to get that. I'm going to get in there and meet these crazy people that already did 5 years at this weird camp. But I bought this book. So if you're interested in this crazy story I'm telling you at all, I bought this book first because I was like, well, let's, do some research, right? This book, Big Dead Place, it was written by someone who worked at McMurdo in the trash collection. And the book is half history of Antarctica, which is not even, think about it. This big country, there's only two places for you to really go. The history is pretty lined out. There's these people that went out into the snow and never came back. There's these other people that have been living over here. And then there's these people that are writing about researching penguins, which is my next slide. The book was fascinating, but it was also half history, half this guy's experience actually working on the McMurdo station. I'm like, how did he even get away with this? He's talking about stuff he pulls out of the trash, and he's looking at documents, or like in the now bureaucracy craziness about the station. And I'm like, whoa! But also I was like, no, I'm not going there. Whoa. This was a huge turning point of my life because I could have, you may never have met me. I might still be living in Antarctica right now if it wasn't for this book. I mean, seriously, I was ready to do 5 years of McMurdo and then get into that deep dark and photographed what was, of course, AI gorgeous model men there in Antarctica. That and penguins. Okay. When I was in high school, I grew up in St. Charles, well, we all know about St. Charles, so very Midwest. The height of proactive dreams for a photographer was to be in National Geographic. So I wanted to be a photographer, so everyone assumed I wanted to be in National Geographic. When I graduated, I got every single one of those big fat books, like the $100 National Geographic books. I had a stack of them. And people were like, Vanessa's gonna go be a photographer in National Geographic. I don't even know that I ever even said that out loud, but I just kind of wrote it, And this was the closest I ever got to that particular life. I was like, I could follow some penguins. Love me some penguins. We're actually gonna leave it up here at penguins for a second so you guys can just take it in. And I'm gonna have some water. So take in your penguins. Yeah. Did someone else turn off the music or just die like it always does? Okay, great. Cool, I love that. I did not do that, but thank you. Sonos. Do you guys have Sonos? It's terrible. Don't buy it. Okay, so here I am, penguins. I said I was gonna go back to books, and I'm gonna do that. I actually have these notes on my phone, But all I have to do is look over at Rachel, and I'm like, oh yeah, I was gonna talk about books. Okay, my book, the one I sneak peeked you over there. So here I am. He thinks we're gonna do a nude shoot. I was like, okay, let's talk about that. I do 14 hours with these models. I'm in school. Like, it's half of it, I'm like, no way, no how. 2 models never even made it into my series or my book. You don't even see their faces. Because I fell in love with a couple of them, and I wanted everything to be about them, right? So here I am, 24 years old. I'm shooting all of this work in this bookstore, and I show some of these photos to the guy who owns the bookstore, and he's like, hi, I publish books. And I'm like, that's cool, it's cool. And then he's like, can we do a book of this? And I was like, I don't know, let's talk about it. I'm only in the middle of a 14-hour shoot, and I have like no energy whatsoever. We'll talk about it right now. He's like, yeah, well, I have this friend in LA who writes erotica. And I'm like, no, over it, nope. I was like, no. Also, I'm like, I love poetry. Probably of the books I collect, I have the most poetry books. I just love the simplicity and the rhythm and kind of like this like nugget. It's kind of like now we're obsessed with reading quotes on Instagram. It's kind of the same thing. I don't know, is that me? Just me? Just me. Cool. I also collected them because poetry books is the one place where artists can actually play and flourish, right? You get with someone who writes a poem, you're like, I could make some art around this. It's like kind of nebulous, you don't know exactly what you're gonna be looking at. And those books are little works of art in themselves. They're absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, I digress. Erotica. Okay. Rex Wilder was at the time, I Googled him. Google, thank you. Even in 2009, Google was my best friend. It did get me this weird Seattle Erotics Art Festival confusion, but it's cool. It got us to this book. So here we are, Rex Wilder, look him up. He was actually part of the creative team that named The Nook, which rhymes with book, and I was sure I was gonna trip all over that. So named The Nook, was part of a lot of different creative things in LA. And I was like, and then I read some of his poetry, and I was like, okay. And I went back to Phil, and I was like, have him send me some stuff. How about I'll just read it, and then if it's not cool, then it's not cool. Phil not only told him that, he sent him some of my photos from the shoot and said, hey, these are the photos, blah, blah, blah. Rex sent me a zip file. First of all, this is 2009. I don't know what a zip file is. I am Googling, but a zip file is like beyond me at this point. But he sends me a zip file. The zip file has like 27 poems in it, most of which he had some poems, he rewrote some poems, and he wrote some poems just on the images sent to him, and I got it within 24 hours. It was insane. I was like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. I think we just wrote a book in 48 hours. It was very scary. But what was really cool about it is that I actually did like his poetry, so that was cool. And he was so excited about the imagery. I was like, okay, let's talk about this. I really truly thought this was gonna be just one tiny little project of my life. It was gonna be like a lily pad, moving on, blah, blah, blah. I also was highly annoyed by Phil. Phil's not Rex, the one that wrote the poetry, but Phil was the bookstore owner and publisher. He's probably gonna watch this video because I'm gonna send it to him, it's gonna be great. He was just such a he jumped on me and he was like, I need all of your, everything. I'm just gonna blah, blah, blah. No contract, no whatever. He's like, I'm gonna do this book. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I like Rex. Okay, cool. I'm working on my images, blah, 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 blah. We're kind of working on a book or whatever. One day, Phil comes to me with fabric swatches. And I'm like, I'm so confused. I thought we were making a book. And he's like, oh, I am. Fabric swatches. You guys, you saw the cool silk, Japanese red silk fabric swatch. And I was like, okay, this is an actual really cool book. So even though Phil annoyed the shit out of me, we made this really cool thing, right? And I like to share this again. This is the part where I thought there was gonna be students in the room and I was gonna be like, so even though you don't like the collaborators, sometimes what's coming out of that is pretty magical, right? And you just gotta be like open, grace, seeing cows. Mary Clark was gonna be here, and I texted her the other day, and I was like, hey, do you mind if I steal one of your metaphors and talk about seeing cows? Of which makes no sense to you guys right now, but I am still gonna talk about it at some point. Maybe I should talk about it now. Do you guys wanna know about seeing cows, or you're all glazed over right now? Okay, great. Yeah, this is where I bounce around so much, which is why I can talk forever. It's like everything is connected. Seeing cows, I went to this incredible, inspirational talk. If you know, Mary Clark has mother models down the street. Really, strong women empowerment message through this talk. And she had a slide, seeing cows, and it just had a picture of cows up there. I gave you penguins. She gave you cows. It's cool, not a big deal, no competition there. The seeing cows concept is if someone says, look for cows, or there are cows everywhere, you are going to see cows everywhere. I mean, this has happened to us before. You're like, the color red, and you're like, oh my God, that car is red. That thing down there is red. If I said orange, you guys would not be able to take your eyes off of Rachel for the rest of the night. You're like, orange up there, The seeing cows thing is that once you put it in your brain to see the cows, you're going to keep seeing the cows. If cows is a positive thought or a negative thought, you're going to be seeing it. So I like to see positive cows. I've started referencing this with other people. I am constantly trying to find that positive part of what we're doing, where we're moving forward to. The negative cows, there's lots of those out there where you're like, I only see what's just messed up. What's crazy? This is going wrong. This is going wrong. This is going wrong. I'm like, This is where I totally derail myself, and I have no idea what I was talking about before. Did we cover the book thing? We covered a book thing. The book came out. The book is a beautiful piece in itself, but we had a show. So I printed a bunch of the pieces. They were framed. We had a show in Beverly Hills at Arundel Bookstore. Actually, it wasn't Beverly. It was in LA. Is Beverly Hills Boulevard only in Beverly Hills? This is a question. I was gonna say, yeah. I don't think it was in Beverly Hills, but it was on Beverly Hills Boulevard, which is a fancy way to go about that. Anyway, that was 15 years ago, guys. Never done another project like that. In fact, stopped doing photography after a while. Didn't really do any cool shoots like that, except every once in a while when I'm going insane and I need a creative outlet, and I just decide to put a thing together that's gonna go nowhere. I'm not gonna submit it anywhere, it's not for a job, it's whatever. And I have 2 of those in this slide because I'm just so proud of them, these tiny moments in my life when I actually did a thing. And that was that other weird slide I was going through. Oh my God, how cute is she? That's what this thing was. Google, never referenced this, that's cool. When I first moved back to St. Louis, I moved into the Metropolitan Artist Lofts. I was about to say that much too fast. Mostly because Grand Center has the only art walk, or did at the time I felt when I came to the city, the only art walk in the town. And I wanted to live somewhere where I could walk about and I could go and be in a neighborhood. Now I do believe that we have really expanded that, and it might have been true then, but I didn't feel it. As an outsider coming back to the city, though I was originally from here, I was gone for 14 years. And when I came back to the city, I really felt like there were tiny little sparks of things going on, but the Renaissance part was Washington Ave. I loved the fashion fun, and the incubator was going on. In fact, when I was just visiting, I was actually staying with my family in Winsville, and I came down to the city to just poke around. And I'm poking around. Art St. Louis used to be on Washington, so I'm poking around there, and then it was over here, and then we're not going to talk about that. It's not part of my talk. But I was walking down Washington Ave, and I was like, ooh, what's going on here? Ooh, yeah, ooh. I just walked in to where the Fashion Funds incubator was on Washington and met Andre Leon Talley. He was just there doing a talk, and I was like, whoa, St. Louis, you're so cool. Wow, how did this happen? keep touching my microphone. Sorry, Eric. I was like, okay, all right. That's, big win. Then someone came over and said, hey, this is a private event. You got to leave. And I was like, cool. It's cool. It still happened. So I saw that. I met him. It was cool. I was like, yeah, that's real. I mean, why wouldn't everybody be in this room right now? And then I went down Washington further, and I ended up at the Contemporary Art Museum and the Pulitzer and Sheldon, and I was like, okay, this is cool. I remember sitting at the cafe at CAM and being like, we can make this work. I was moving to Boston at this time. I was only in St. Louis to visit my family, and I was like, okay, Boston's very expensive. Why do I want to be there? St. Louis, I know people, much cheaper. Still has that working man, grungy. There's something I love about a Seattle, Boston, Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis. Had never been that for me. But this is where I end up like, oh, okay, hi. Hi, St. Louis. Okay, I'm gonna start looking at you the way I have the other 27 addresses I've had. Every other place I walk in, I'm like, oh, wow. Ooh, it takes like 3 things to impress me, and then I'm done, right? And now I walk into my own town, I'm like, I've seen that, I've seen that, I've seen that, I've seen that. So back to Metropolitan Artist Lofts, I was like, okay, this is cool. I'll live in Grand Center. It'll be really cool. They have this, they still do, have this little, common area in the front. And when I started there, everyone's like, yeah, this is an art space. We do art openings here. And I was like, cool. Let's, make that happen. About a month into living there, the girl that had been running it was like, here, take this, great, okay, bye, and then she moves away. She gave me an absolute, steaming pile of, it's gross. That building is, does not actually want anybody to make anything or be creative or whatever. They just want to, it was very bad juju. It was not a good place for me. But I made some really cool shows. If any of you guys know Eric Nauman, he's also another under the radar. Google will probably not do him any justice, but he's an incredibly talented artist. And we made this amazing show where we covered all the walls and everything with these crazy handmade wallpapers he made. And he had sculptures that were backlit, and these other sculptures of Saddam Hussein's head that was this big, and it was crazy. Did not belong in that space whatsoever. It belonged in a really, really cool gallery, but we made it happen, and then everybody was like, we don't do that here. And we were, okay. So then it was my turn. I did the series, Study of Sabine. See, this is why I showed the book early. You guys got niblets. From the outside, this just looks like a bunch of portraits of random people. And it is. But it's actually inspired by a book by Nick Bantock that's called The Study of Sabine. I lied. That's the name of my show. What's the name of this book? That's a really good question for Vanessa, future Vanessa. Okay, anyway, there's 3 books together. They're incredible. They have fold-out envelopes and letters, and it's all hand-drawn art, and you pull the art out, and you can view it all. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, what I was inspired about was there's 3 books, there's 2 characters. All the while, you don't know what Sabine looks like. You never know. She doesn't describe, she's kind of like a ethereal, creature. She never describes herself, she doesn't know where she was born, she doesn't have an origin, and she's just a pen pal with this guy. So the whole time, he's trying to get to know her, but you never know what she looks like. And so I was inspired to do what Alphonse Mucha, Klimt, Paolo Roversi, all those people, to photograph some more lovely women, but any one of them could be Sabine based on the description in this book. It was very all over the place. Anyway, so this was a little cute little thing I did that Google doesn't tell you, and this is the only time I'll ever be able to tell you, and no one will ever know again. The end. I know. This is also where my slides are what are we doing here? Penguins. There's my beautiful Luna, which I'm going to tell you all about, but I just also want to see if there's anything else in here but Luna. Luna. Oh, Cuba's in here. Okay, great. I can't remember what's in here. Okay. The other underlining thing. So now how are we on time? because what I was going to talk about is like out the window. Whoa, 15 minutes. Okay, now all of a sudden I got to drink some water. Okay. Thinking about what I'm going to talk about for an hour. You're going to get a crazy timeline. You're getting some interesting stories about some random stuff. I really wanted, I wanted you to come in and hear about me, but walk away thinking about you. Again, I just didn't know what my audience was, but I love all of you in here right now. And I was really interested in the Google search because it doesn't really tell you what you've been doing with your life, or where you're going, or what were even the highlights. You would think that a Google search would show you the highlights. Google is terrible. Down with Google. Okay. For me, the only thread that went through everything was this little nugget right here. And she's not my baby, although you guys would be like, you know, when you're talking to someone and they're like, can I show you pictures of my baby? And there's like all these pictures, and I'm totally going to do that to you, and you're trapped here now. This is my niece, Luna. And Luna means moon. And I made some really corny joke about how her gravitational pull had literally, when she was born, changed the entire trajectory of my life. And it's why I don't exist on Google. Because nobody knows about, like, you know, Google doesn't care about cute walks or making up songs in the park or, you know, taking photos of weird stuff that she picks up and brings to you like this. I actually did an entire yearbook of her babies, her baby dolls. She had really weird names for them. They were all weird. Like, some of them had, like, you know, one arm was missing. One made a sound. It was like, and I was like, God, I wish it had audio in the yearbook too. That would be so good. But I was highly entertained by all these things that you would never see in a Google thing, right? Here she is. She's so cute. And I did have a blog. If you guys really Google me, there was this whole blog. Don't read it. Okay. It was young Vanessa, but I love it still. In it, there was this beautiful quote by Tom Robbins. The moon invented natural rhythm, and civilization uninvented it. I think about that a lot, actually, because of the way we go faster, go, 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 go. So if you were going to take anything away from this, I would hope you're seeing cows, positive cows out there. I hope that you are considering all the tiny lily pads of your life as important little nuggets, right? You're just learning a thing. When I was in the recycling plant with the steel-toe boots and the whatever, it was so loud, and I was with a lot of really aggressive people. There's actually a lot of people that, like, came out of prison, and it's like one of the jobs that they do is they come out, like, it's very aggressive to the nervous system job. So I immediately took the next job as a live-in caregiver, which was the exact opposite. Again, like, headhunted in the weirdest way. I'm like, you look like you could sit in a very quiet house for 4 days straight and put up with this person because he was special. He had lost so many caregivers because he was just a real pain. And I was like, yeah, I was raised by grandparents. And my grandpa, towards the end, he was a stinker. I mean, honestly, like, one of the most gregarious, charismatic, handsome men. My great-grandfather was the mayor of Kansas City. So my grandfather was like the prince of Kansas City. He was also really hot, and all the girls wanted him. And I'm only telling you this because it's not awkward or weird at all. But I'm only telling you this because at the end of his life, nobody wanted to spend any time with him because he was just so stinky. He was just not really, he probably was physically stinky, but I didn't get that close. But he had kind of like lived his life in this high, and then when it was the tough time, he didn't know how to deal with it. And he wasn't taking all the tiny lily pad things as like these little nuggets, you know. So anyway, the caregiving, it was a natural progression for me. I was like, yeah, I can put up with that guy. In fact, there's like so many underlying things, but being patient with humans is, I would like to say, is part of my superpower. Like, I'm not the most patient person, but I feel like I listen. I'm kind of like, okay, oh, you're coming from here. Okay, cool. Oh, I'll listen to that. Ooh, I'm gonna give you some space. Okay, give you some space, give you some space, give you some space. Okay, I'm coming back, I'm coming back, coming back. I did that a lot in caregiving because it's hard to be one-on-one with someone that's struggling and going towards the end, the 2001 Tombstone version of Vanessa Rudloff. So anyway, caregiving, so great, lily pad. So I went from really loud to really quiet, like no music, big glass house, 4 days straight. And that's why I took a headshot of myself, no makeup on whatsoever, to apply for a job. I'm like, this is the best version of me. There's no makeup, whatever. And I applied for the On God Arts Hotel. So we're gonna come full circle. I'm gonna see what other kind of slides we're on here because we're gonna talk about now. How much time do I have? 8 minutes. There needs to be a really big clock in the back that's like, okay, Cuba. It's really awesome. I should talk about it more, but when I was living in Oklahoma, I was a photographer under a studio. And the studio was Siobhan Williams' studio. Siobhan was the main photographer. Everything I did for that studio, I shot millions and millions and millions of photos, so many jobs, amazing, amazing work that would be really cool on my Google search, but it was all Siobhan Williams because it was through the Siobhan Williams studio. Towards the end of, this is a Luna thing. This is a gravitational Luna part. Okay, 10 minutes, 8 minutes, 6 minutes. Okay, I know, try to get it together. Luna, a gem, right? The gravitational pull is real. I was in Seattle. I didn't go to Antarctica, turns out, and I decided instead to move to France, right? I moved to France, and I have never been homesick. I'd already been gone for years. I'd never been homesick. I go to France, and I am getting more and more homesick. I think it's because, I talk a lot, and I didn't know French, so that was an issue. I had an associate's degree in Spanish, so I moved to France. It was a great plan. There's so many other factors there. But what I found is that the more homesick I got, the further away from my trajectory of my fashion portfolio for New York, blah, 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 and more I just wanted to be with my people. And my people, I didn't have like a home base. So my people were living in Oklahoma because my sister's in the military, single mom, and she was stationed in Afghanistan at the time. And little Luna Boo over here, she was just about turned 3, and my sister had already been in Iraq and Afghanistan in the first 3 years of her life. She was staying with some family in Missouri, and I was like, I'm gonna leave Paris, France. I'm gonna swing by Missouri, I'm gonna grab my niece, and I'm gonna move to Oklahoma because that's obviously the next plan in the trajectory of life. So I moved to Oklahoma, ended up being fantastic. I worked for this photo studio. I got to know my mom. The whole part of the story that you don't hear is that I was raised by my grandparents because my parents weren't really around. I didn't even get to really know my mom until Luna was born and my mom was around all the time. And turns out my mom is my best friend. Even more than Rachel. Sorry, Rachel. My mom is the one friend, the constant. Never really been my mom. She's desperate, desperately didn't want to be a mom, but wanted to be a best friend. So she became a best friend. She is my best friend. So we all lived together in Oklahoma. And also even in Oklahoma, I do this thing where I'm like, this is my younger sister, by the way. She's really cool. She works in the embassy on the island of Cyprus in the Mediterranean. And it's so fancy. But here I am, 2.5 years older, and I'm like, I'm making it. I got a full-time job, and I've had it for 7 years straight. I'm very excited. But we moved there so that, she had a support system. I could spend time with my niece. I could be with my mom. I could see and do these other things. And the studio that I worked for was actually really freaking cool. It was the big fish in a little pond, okay? I don't know if New York, going to New York, I don't have that advice. Going to New York, LA, Miami, make a thing, beat the street, maybe that's the way. I found that like you go to the smallest place ever and you work for the biggest thing. It worked for me. It was great. We had all the cool clients. We've done many a cool thing. I forgot to talk about Ben Roethlisberger, but that's cool. I did work for ESPN Magazine. I was part of a lot of really cool shoots, and I like to say that I pulled on Ben Roethlisberger's sweatpants strings right in the time that like all the stuff was going on about the sexual allegations and everything, and I was like, well, I got back at him. I thought about pants him, and I was like, no, I was just gonna pull on these strings and make them even for this photo and make you look really good. That's not part of my timeline at all. So anyway, did all these really cool things. But one of the coolest things I did when I was in Oklahoma is the owner didn't want me to leave. My sister, the reason she had to pop in there is because with the military, you don't live in a place very long, which is why between me, photography, my sister being in the military, we moved all the time. I was just like, do I want to stay here or do I want to go where you're going? There goes all my people. I'm like, okay, I'm moving to Oklahoma, back to Washington State, down to Texas. Then they were like, oh, I think we're gonna be here for a little bit. I'm like, no, not Texas. No, not work for me. That's when I decided to move back here. And then that's when they got the job in Cyprus. And I was like, what the? 7 years. I was with you for 7 years. But when I was leaving, my boss with the Oklahoma studio was like, I don't want you to leave. I want you to buy the studio. I want to give you my whole business. And I was like, that sounds great, but I'm not going to sit still long enough to do that. And she's like, well, let me just, sweeten it up for a little bit. How about I take you on this trip to Cuba? And I was like, well, hell yeah. So she's like, okay, it's Santa Fe workshops. I don't know if you guys are familiar. They're very expensive, super, super pricey. And she would go all the time because she had no children. And that's why I didn't want to take her job, because if I was Siobhan Williams' studio, couldn't very well be Vanessa Rudloff's studio. And also she would just be behind me all the time telling me what to do, right? Lessons learned. I know. That's my friend Chris riding a bicycle by. Okay, cool. But Cuba was so amazing. I went in 2014 when Raul was really running things, and we were in this sliver of time that the border was open from Miami to Cuba. We had a visa, an educational visa, but 2 weeks after I got home, they closed it again. And probably one of my biggest paranoia things is being trapped in a country that I can't get out of. And it was kind of anxious, but it was the most beautiful thing. There was no signage, just gorgy. I just love this photo because it's just so goofy. That's all of us in the car taking photos. Okay, here's some things I did. We're now on 5 minutes, so we gotta wrap this up. So you got some not nudes. I will tell you, this is Nettie. She's great. Oh my God, I went from that slide to that slide. That's terrible. Hold on a second. How many slides have I got? Okay, cool. We're almost there. It's weird to go from this one to this one, but this is Nettie. It's one of those moments when I was in Oklahoma and I was shooting lawyers and doctors every day. And then maybe a football player, then maybe a commercial thing about a thing, very boring, maybe some product photography, something. And I was like, I need to shoot some Paolo Reversi moment for me, So I just hired a model. Her name's Nettie. Here she is. We had no plan. I was like, bring whatever clothes you want. We'll just do a thing. This is just 3 hours. We shot this stuff, and it's some of my favorite stuff ever. And so, I'm 24. I made this book, and I thought, ooh, I'm going to make these books all the time, and I'm going to shoot them for Washington, W Magazine, blah, blah, blah. And then I go off, and my life derails, and I go this way, and I end up in Oklahoma, and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to be 40 this year, and woo! It's not part of my timeline, but you're all welcome to come to my birthday party. It's on August 16th. It's on a Saturday. I'm having Vanessa Fest, so I've already invited everybody. It's literally, you are invited. This is not me being just cute. You're invited. Compton Water Reservoir Park. Okay. Most of the reason I'm doing that, and I'm at this point where It's weird when you hit the certain numbers and you're just like, I gotta rethink things. I gotta reestablish. I started to look at the On God and be like, okay, let's tell people about what we're doing here. We're on our 40th exhibit in that building. It's only been open 7 years this year. Like this November will be 7 years. And some of that was COVID. So we've actually been really doing some really cool things. And also, once I hit 40 and I'm like, God, that book over there, it's like 15 years old. I never did anything else that was cool like that. So that's me. I know, so positive cows, seeing cows. But what I did do was have an incredible relationship with, this is that green-eyed goober I showed you earlier. This is my niece, Luna. This is not some weird, like, half-clothed girl. Just two very different things, weird. But she turns 18 this November. So, wow, I know, wow. She's going to be an actress. She's applying to school in Scotland to go to the same academy or whatever that James McAvoy went to, whatever, famous people. She wanted me to take pictures, like more like the Nettie pictures, and I was like, no, that's so weird. I gave her this. We actually shot. I was in Cyprus over Christmas, and she had really long hair down to here. And we did a whole photo shoot with her hair down to here. And then I cut her hair. Speaking of things Google doesn't tell you about, look how good this haircut is, right? Hell yeah, killing it. Auntie vibes. Also, Aloe Mother was something I was totally going to talk about in my first slide. I never talked about it ever, but I just learned the term Aloe Mother. An aloe mother is usually used when you're talking about animal society, but elephant mothers that mother calves when the mother is away. So, Auntie V vibes. I'm an Auntie V, I'm an aloe mother. I really feel like this is also my child because I've been there for all the things. But yeah, we took hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photos, and then she was like, Aunt V, can you edit those ones with the black swimsuit? It's okay, we took them, but she's like, no, I want those to be my headshot for this new play I'm doing. And I'm like, okay. So these are actually, she's going to be in a play in the ancient amphitheater called the Kurion on the island of Cyprus. It's a gladiator amphitheater. There's no sound equipment, right? It's naturally built so that you can hear the people that are 100 miles away, way down there, but you're up sitting on a rock way up here. And then they're down there and they're doing their thing, it's like cool lights, and you're just looking out over the Mediterranean. It's insane. Yeah, seriously, we should go. We should all go. You're invited to my birthday party and you're invited to Cyprus. We're gonna go watch her in the play. I went, saw The Tempest. I can't actually remember what I've seen. I'm a very good auntie, can you tell? Anyway, it was amazing. Point is, Google doesn't tell you how cool you are as an auntie or all the photo stuff. Everyone's packing up already. It's so intimidating. Oh my God, here's a picture of her in her yellow jacket. Okay, here we are. This is really my last slide. Okay, cool. So, this is a tiny bit of recap, but not really. This cool photo here, thank God for Instagram, actually. Because if we didn't have Instagram, I probably would have stopped taking photos altogether. I would never really be like, exercising that part of me. But Instagram kind of covered it a little bit, so I was taking all kinds of art stuff all the time. This is Zlatko Ćosić, the artist of the chameleon lamp at the On God. He's up there making it happen. That was when we first opened in 2018. And this is a quote from David Harms. Vanessa makes everything bigger and bigger, and she goes crazy, but it all works out in the end, and everyone has a great time. I thought that was probably the best end plate for a talk. No matter where this talk went for the last hour, I was like, well, this is the end plate, right? David and I went to school together in Seattle, and he was there to watch me go through the book process of the whole, oh my God, it was just a photo shoot, and there was a photo shoot and a book, and then it was a photo shoot, a book, and a show in LA. And then I not only had a show in LA, I invited a bunch of my friends to show too. So we caravanned, and that was my first real curation, actually. When I was like looking back through everything. We caravanned down. I curated this whole space with several different artists, and we had lots of, it was magical. Everyone was insane. It was way too expensive. It was great. So fast forward to now. I have no time left, right? Okay, cool. I'm at the On God. Been there now almost, 7 years, we just said. About a year ago, I started working for STL.org. That's where you are now in this beautiful, beautiful space. I'm going to do some weird plugs where I'm like, hey, we do this once a month, blah, blah, blah. We do this once a month, blah, blah, blah. This space allowed me to do what I was doing at On God. We only show artists within 200 miles. It's very local, very beautiful. Only visual artists. So it's very specific in my mission, right? Local, visual artists. But STL.org gives me the opportunity to show anyone in the city I think is like amazing. Nonprofits, entrepreneurs, initiatives. We have a happy hour next Tuesday. I'm totally plugging it. This is beautiful photo show. I can show it because I'm excited for the city. It's not just incredible photography that's going to be on the wall, and you can come and just have a little moment with us, but it's a platform for someone to be able to share what they're doing. So I am also, this is current Vanessa's On God Arts Hotel, STL.org, but she also is part of a new initiative called Brick City Photo Center. And it is a photography initiative to open a wet lab, community-driven, in the city. So you don't have to be going to a university or whatever. You can pay a membership to just use a wet lab. Wet lab being darkroom photography. So full circle, Vanessa Paloversi wants to be a thing. She never does any creative projects whatsoever. And now there's going to be a wet lab in the city. It's going to happen because I'm a part of it and I want to see it happen, so it's going to happen. So the first thing we're going to do is have a mingle in here where we liquor everyone up and we tell them about the plan, right? And then someone's like, here's my building. And I'm like, great. We're making it happen. So we're seeing positive cows. We're going to make really cool stuff happen in the city. Does anybody have any questions? No?
I'll see you tonight.
Yeah, see, they're already running away. Okay, I'm going to have the book in the back and show you if you want to stick around. Otherwise, that's the end of my monologue. I lied, that's not the end of my monologue. Okay, we already lost 10%, but I wanted to start with, I want to know how you guys heard about this. So raise your hand if you heard about this event from my mouth. Okay, oh, cool. From my Instagram. Okay, cool. From STL.org. Love that. From Atomic Dust. Cool. From a friend. Just randomly. Is there anything I missed out? Anybody? Wait, what? Email. My email or STL? Oh, email. My email? Okay, STL.org email? Anybody? Okay. I'm just...
From an artist that was in your first curated show in the On God Arts Hotel.
I love that. Woo! I'm just always curious how people find out, because I want this to be successful. We do this every third Friday of the month, is this super bright and early. Then we also, every third Tuesday of the month, we have the happy hour. So that's when we liquor you up. This one we caffeinate you. And then we do a lot of other programming. So go to STL.org and come and hang out with us, and that really is the end. Okay, thank you.